Up a little bit. All right. Good to see everybody. All right. All right. Before we get started, I always like to talk a little bit about the market, what happened, what we've been trading. There's been a couple of good stocks that have been moving in the market. Let me share my screen really quick with you because this is what we're really going to be talking about. We're going to talk about what's happening in the market. We're going to show you a couple of good features that we use on the Benzinga platform, why we use the Benzinga platform, and then we're going to give you guys a promo at the end. So let me just share my screen really quick and bring up my execution system. And because I know we're going to have fun, I'm going to talk to Ryan a little bit and really kind of talk about some of the things that we had going on. So I hope everybody can see my screen okay. So anyway, there was a couple of nice little stocks that we traded today. And you know what? When you work your way down this list, we had a couple of good moves on certain stocks. First of all, we had SPWR that had a really nice push this morning. You can see how it went from like $2.70 to $3. We dodged a couple of good bullets. All right, we had NVAX that did really well. Now, NVAX, for everybody knows, they passed that. They got this new contract with the COVID, and showing up the stock not only was a great day trade, it's been a really good swing trade. I had it. I was losing money on it. I ended up holding it for a nasty shake, and I made it all back. Thank God, a nice little push right there. It was right around this time, right around here. But the thing dropped all the way down to 16. That did really well. We had also a couple of the stocks, Fry, that's doing pretty decent, very inexpensive stocks. You know that, these are the things that we kind of look at and trade. But NVAX has been the pretty nice one out of them all. We had the stock Mogul, and you could see how that stock, how it made a lower low. Another thing that you learned at Cybertrade University is that we kind of teach you is that it's not about the winners. You're going to lose in trading. I'm going to talk to Ryan about it. We're going to have some fun talking about those losers because you got to learn how to lose before you can learn how to make. And that's really what it comes down to it. And that's what trading is all about. So let me bring in Ryan into here. And Ryan, could you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, good. Ryan, how you been?
I've been pretty good.
I felt like I just spoke to you last week.
Hey, well, that's because we did talk just last week. We've actually been talking quite a bit recently. I'm doing good. How about you?
What's so funny? We're basically, I'm coming on your show, and I know you guys are doing this broadcast like we do every morning, and it's just so funny how we are trading the exact same stocks, and it's nice to kind of see the different perspective of, how you guys are looking at it and what kind of tools you're using, and then basically, how we talk about Fausto flags, we talk about iceberg orders, we're talking about, and you guys are seeing it. And then meanwhile, you and I like messaging it after the show. Hey, did you see that stock we just talked about? How that one did? And it's really cool that we really have a lot in common because this, if you kind of relate to somebody, how they trade, this is how we all kind of trade together,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things for me that is the most important when I'm trying to do any type of short-term day trade is going to be volume, right? So if the volume is telling the story, if the volume is causing some of these stocks to be in play, we're often looking at the same ones. I know you look at the volume, you look at flow, you look at all of that stuff. So I'm actually not terribly shocked we're looking at the same things. Good validation, we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and then that's what it comes down to it. And the goal I want to do is, eventually we'll show the Benzinga platform, we'll talk a little bit about it, we'll tell everyone exactly, the benefits of it, and we're going to give everybody a nice promo. But the whole thing, I like to really kind of share your ideas. I mean, a little bit about you working at Benzinga. First of all, how long has Benzinga been around?
So Benzinga's been around for a while. This is, I think, I want to say 2010. Is when it started. I'd have to ask Jason. He's disappointed. I don't know off the top of my head. Been around for a while. The whole thought behind Benzinga is to try and raise the tide for the entire retail pool, right? We want to give retail traders the same tools that the professionals use to make all that money in their profession. So that's kind of been the ethos for a long time. Just so you're aware, I was actually a customer of Benzinga PRO prior to working here. I was a 5-year subscriber. It was the tool that changed everything for me. It was the source of truth of information. It was where I got a lot of my idea generation. And it changed everything for me. So one day I suggested, hey, I'm able to help if you guys need more help. And the rest is history, as they say.
No, and you know what? You're doing a great job. I mean, like I said, I've seen you doing your broadcast in the morning, and you got 13 in there with you, looking at some of those stocks. It's just nice that there was always this thing that people always say, "Ooh, you day trading, you lose all your money and this and that." And the first thing I always tell people is like, "Well, first of all, what kind of trading are you doing?" They're
Hmm.
like, well, what did you lose money on? And I always ask them, and they're like, oh, I had this stock, and it was just like, it went down like 20 points. I'm like, 20 points in an intraday trade? You weren't day trading, you were swing trading.
Hmm.
And that's how people gets themselves in trouble. So yes, you can, you can learn how to become a good swing trader and an options trader, just learning how to day trade. And that's how like people always ask, even with you. I mean, like, how did they get into these stocks that you're into and how they turn into it? Like just the other day, we were on the show, we were talking about, Robinhood. Like today, Robinhood was moving up pretty nicely. Well, it's coming down today, but it's been on a really good move. NVAX, which I just showed you, these things turn into swing trades, and that's really, it comes out to it. But being there for 5 years, my question, what was the biggest thing you learned in the 5 years? I'm telling you the mistakes that people do as day traders, but what have you learned, being there for so long of, at
So are you
Benzinga?
talking about the first 5 years before I worked there when I was trading on my own or after I started at Benzinga?
You
Because
know
I
what?
would say
That
those
sounds
answers are different.
both. That sounds
Okay.
even better. Because you know what? Actually, before and after, because a lot of people listening in, I mean, they make those mistakes as an
Mhm.
intraday. They start out, and that's why they come to us. But with those mistakes that you've done,
Okay, so the first batch of mistakes, and I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this. The first batch of mistakes that I made is I made the mistake of thinking that anyone that sounds like they know what they're talking about is presenting you good information. That is mistake number one. You can have two really bright people look at the same earnings report, read through all of the different metrics about how that company did that quarter, and then at the end of that, have two different opinions. And I'm always trying to find people that are more intelligent than me, that have more experience than me. That's how I make up my circle. Both my parents were teachers, so they always told me, hang around with people that are smarter than you, and you'll just get smarter at the same time. So I've been doing that. I've been doing that my whole life. And I realized that early on, everyone has their own opinion. And like I said, two really trained people can look at the exact same stock, exact same report, and come up with two different conclusions. So one of the things that I learned is for me to be able to feel good about my own trading, I need to be able to make a thesis that I can defend, that has something that's testable on it, and I need to be able to take information in from others, even if it's a little bit different than what I think. That actually made me a more well-rounded trader. Now, actually, after I started working for Benzinga, I was put in more communities that had more people with more degrees of freedom on their different positions. And at first, I was like, well, God, everyone kind of thinks a little bit differently. But I very, very quickly realized that there is a tremendous benefit to this. There are people that have expertise in all different types of, businesses and things of that nature. And by surrounding myself with those people, I'm going to be able to learn every day. So I learned very, very quickly that not everything you see on the internet is true. And then once I got to Benzinga and I started to network with people that were connected to this business, I realized how valuable that actually is. How's that for
and
an answer?
yeah, and then the big thing is too, and like you just mentioned, stuff on the internet. If you see a guy showing a big stack of cash sitting on his dashboard,
You know how
those are
much,
people you don't want
you
to
know
learn
what
from.
that means to me, Fausto? You know what that means to me?
What is that?
Zilch.
Yeah.
I mean, zilch. I don't care. If someone is flashing money and cars, that to me is that doesn't really move me. I want to know the how. I want to know the why. I don't want to have to rely on somebody else saying, "Hey, buy this now and sell this now." I want to be able to do that myself. The cars, the money, all that stuff's going to take care of itself later on down the road. I'm here to make this a long-term career, not some short-term flash in the pan gambling situation.
Yeah, listen, most people just happy to make a day's pay. I mean, like, listen, the
Absolutely.
big thing you have to look at if you and let me say, I'm not saying they don't make that money, but I'm just saying even if they do, to make that much money, you got to risk 3, 4 times that money. Okay, so you buy into a restaurant, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I know you guys are into Detroit, but like to buy a restaurant in Manhattan is going to cost you about startup maybe between 3 and 5 million. Okay. They're making about 15%. So think of the long term of how much money they're making doing that. Maybe it's like, oh, you gotta get in restaurant business. Trading, you don't have to make a lot, but don't be fooled around that. So That's one of the big things I focus. And you know what? I said the same thing. Like you just said, your parents being teachers. You know what? You
Mhm.
hang around. Like I was always, my parents taught me the same thing. Father's first generation Italian,
Yep.
moved in here, from Italy. And my parents told me, so listen, came with $20 in their pocket, all their kids did well. And my dad said, listen, if you like something, I don't care if you got to work for free or you got to pay them money, whatever it is. You find the person that really good at it and you learn everything not to do, you know?
Yep.
And as much as you hate working for them, I don't care how nasty they are, whatever it is. If they're the best in the industry, you're going to learn. That's why they're there, and that's how you become good at what you do. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, if there was any, now regarding about your trading, now that you learned that from the past, what have you
Mhm.
learned from today that made you a better trader?
So one of the things you mean just in terms of like actual trading or how I'm structuring it or just kind of in general?
How you structuring
Yeah.
it a little bit more, because the people listening in, the traders are in here, they want to basically have an idea like what made you, how'd you get to where you are today, because a lot of them are in the same boat and they want to know that they're in the same situation as you are.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I really I realized how important the adage is of protecting your capital. So we've started talking about how before I worked for Benzinga, I would be a part of FinTwit. I'd be a part of the chat rooms that I'm sure a number of the viewers are a part of, and which is great. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn from chat rooms, but if you don't have that structure behind what you're learning, can actually be quite dangerous. Okay. So one of the things that I learned early on, especially when I got here, I started talking to more and more professionals, and I'd start asking them about strategy. How do you trade this? And everything that they were telling me, everything was structured around not losing. And I would remember thinking, well, when do we start making money around here, right? Like all you guys are talking about is protecting yourself. When do we start talking about actually, juicing this up, some profit here? And I realized that all just kind of happens, right? That's just part of the plan. That comes with time. Really, the thing that you need to focus on is protecting your capital. And when I kind of took that as the approach, I realized that a lot of my trading decisions actually became easier. For example, if I'm day trading stock XYZ and I'm going to buy it at $3, thinking that it might move to 4 and it drops to 280, well, if I'm thinking to myself that, hey, look, just don't let this get any worse. You can stop out right there. Now I've taken a really small loss. I've protected my capital. I still have a thesis for what that stock could do. You know how many times I've seen something look like it's going to break out, fail its breakout, come in, and then break out later in the day? That entire process of just kind of protecting my capital, staying focused on my plan, I've been able to kind of execute that and then expand that further and further here. So I moved away from thinking I took a loss because I was wrong, and I more think, okay, I took a small loss. I'm still okay. Time to hit this going forward.
That actually happened to me today. We were trading some of the traders were in the room, they're here, they were watching this morning. I was trading Barnes and Noble this morning. So Barnes and
BNED,
Noble,
yep.
with the buyout, stock has done great. Where'd it go? It went from like it started 16 cents. The thing's already up. I went to like $1.40. So I end up buying it, and I bought at the highs of the day. I thought this thing was still going because it got a big push, started like making higher highs. So I ended up paying like, I don't know what I pay for. I think it was like 138 or some crap like that. And then sure enough, I'm like, oh man, I'm losing. Stock got halted like so many times.
Mhm.
And it got halted. It got halted. I said, screw it. I got out, and I was able to sell it into demand. I
Mhm.
said, you know what? This is it's just get too volatile. The thing had a big run. Thank God I got out of it. I think I got out of it. I sold it. What did I get out of the stupid thing? I bought it at sold at 133. I got in at 130. I sold at 133, and I was losing about 20, 30 cents on that trade. And I got out in the second push. Thank God I got out of it, because now it's right down to 80 cents. So getting out at like 133, if I just got greedy
Mhm.
and I was losing, I says, you know what? I would have really been crushed. So it's all about money management. And that's basically you kind of
Mhm.
learning. And that's what traders try to teach. You got to learn and understand, that you can't hit home runs in every single trade because you'll strike out more than another. But has anything gone wrong on you trading? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, get ready for things to go. I
Where do
mean,
you
I don't
start,
know.
right?
I don't know where you were last May. Last May, I was looking at Nvidia, and I was on the day of its earnings report, and I'm thinking, man, this is the stock's extended. The stock's been moving like crazy. We got an earnings report here. How are they possibly going to beat the comp that's now higher than it was the last quarter? Like this is ripe for a pullback. And thankfully, I used some of the other lessons. I'm not going to short Nvidia outright into its print, but one of the things that I did was I actually bought the NVDS ETF, right? The
ETF.
inverse ETF to play to the downside. And as you were just talking about, I was managing my risk by adjusting my position size so that I wasn't going to have a heart attack in case this thing goes against me. And guess what? Nvidia reported earnings in their May quarter last year, and it absolutely ripped. And I was short while this thing was ripping. The good news is that because I had structured that trade accordingly, I wasn't really in trouble. I ended up taking a loss there, but I wasn't really in trouble, and I was able to make that back. Now, fast forward to this year, here we are sitting on NVIDIA earnings day, and in the morning, it sure feels like NVIDIA is extended. We actually had a stat from our earlier show, May 22nd last year, to this year, NVIDIA is 300% higher just in the course of a year, and they're about to report earnings here today.
Tomorrow, right?
Say again?
Tomorrow?
No, earnings are after market today
Oh, it's after today.
on
I don't know
NVIDIA.
why it's
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it normally is. A lot of those big tech names are Thursday. Apple normally
You know
reports on
why?
Thursday
Probably
too.
because it's Memorial Day on Monday, so they probably don't want to go on a Thursday, because everybody's going to take off on work tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that's what's probably going to end up happening. I was telling every one of my traders, I hate holidays because it's just like, as much as we love a holiday coming up, but for me, it's like I lose 2 days of trading. Monday, everybody's gone. Then everybody's off on Monday, so Friday's gone, and then Tuesday, everybody's coming in late. And God, it's a nice day here on Long Island, where everyone goes to the Hamptons and they've
Mhm.
renting these summer homes for $1 million just for the summer. I mean, like, it just kind of screws things up a little bit. But
Fausto,
just
what other job have you had where you said, I don't like holidays? Can you think of one? Because I can't. This is the only one. This is the only job where it's like, holiday means I don't get to trade.
yeah, I mean, listen, I love holidays in a way of if I have a home living channel, so I love cooking.
Mhm.
So I have a big Christmas and stuff like that. But like you have Juneteenth coming up, right?
Mhm.
That's on a Wednesday, right? It's on a Wednesday. It's going to screw things up in the middle of summer. You know what I mean? Like, and now how you figure that now? People are going to take off 3 days and stuff. But is it like you said? There's no other job other than everyone else likes
Yeah.
holidays, uh, and I learned that on the first day as a in the trading industry. Well, even like business owners, I mean, like they don't like holidays because they're like, I
Mhm.
got to pay rent.
Yeah.
I got to pay rent if for the month, so if I have 30 days to sell product, I just lost two. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's
So
a numbers game. It's a numbers game. The other thing is you get into a routine, right? You make yourself comfortable with a routine, and now all of a sudden we're used to waking up on a Wednesday. We're used to waking up on a Wednesday. We're used to this being the middle of the week. There's a lot of Fed talk on Wednesday. Now all of a sudden you have a holiday, and now I
yeah.
have to readjust my entire plan. That actually just makes more work for us traders. We're creatures of habit. There's no doubt about it.
So what's the funniest thing that ever happened to you in trading?
Funniest thing that ever happened to me. Oh,
I mean, I tell you, we're
funny.
talking about like the down parts of it, but there's got to
Yeah, I funniest thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know if you guys are going to really consider this funny. Funniest thing that ever happened to me. I was trying to buy 1,000 shares of this $2 stock, and I fat fingered the entry and I bought twenty
Oh,
thousand
I've done
shares.
that.
Okay, so here's the thing. It's really it's not funny. Okay, frankly, right when it happens and you realize that it happened, it's not funny. You get that little feeling where your cheeks are burning because you just made a mistake and you're kind of on the line there. Stock ended up popping shortly after I bought it. I joke around that it was my big order that caused the stock. That's not what happened, but I make myself feel better. Stock popped and I immediately liquidated the entire thing. And I was like, geez, I just made like $600 in like 3 seconds. Like, this is awesome. That kind of became the funniest thing. I haven't tried it again since then because I don't like making mistakes. I don't like fat fingering orders. But that is probably I had a fat finger trade for 10x the size that I intended that ended up working, and I just got lucky. That's probably one of the funnier things that has happened to me.
That happened to me. I'm glad it worked in your favor because it didn't work on mine.
Oh, I
I
have
did a
plenty
fat
where it
thing.
didn't work.
Oh,
I'm
it
just
didn't
saying
work
that
for
it's
me.
funny when it works.
I ended up taking a few $1,000 loss, and it was like I was so ticked off, when it
Yeah.
happened. I said if I said buying 1,000, I ended up buying like 10,000 of a
Yeah.
very like thinly traded stock. So like I kind of ran it up, and then
Yep.
because it was very thin, and then I couldn't get out of it. So that's where my issue was at. Oh, well, that happens.
Yeah. I would
But
have been more upset and that would have been less funny if that
that would
is
be
how it
less
worked.
funny. That'd
Yeah,
be less
no
funny. People
question.
probably don't mind, but you learn a lot. You learn a lot from it.
Absolutely.
Though, like, don't make that. I sometimes I have my traders always argue with me. They say, "Fausto, you spelled the stock symbol wrong," because whatever. We get older, we have fat fingers. I typed the wrong letter, whatever it is. But that's funny, but it's not funny when you actually do a trade.
Yeah, and one more thing about typos here. I say this all the time. If any one of your viewers have joined my live trading show, they've probably heard me say this. I tell people all the time, I speak trader, right? I speak trader. I read through a lot of these typos. You know, and how many times have you messed up Tesla, TSLA? How many times you put in TLSA and get Tanzania Life Sciences or whatever it is? I mean, we've done that. We've done that too. I speak trader. I'm able to get through typos. I totally know how it goes.
That happened with Zoom, actually. Believe it or not, it was funny, but like when Zoom, we're doing a Zoom meeting right here,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and that stock took off. People thought it was spelled ZOOM, and
And
they
there
thought it
is a
was a
stock
public.
ZOM, isn't there?
Yeah, and all of a sudden the stock just like took off, and just no one realized it that's not the stock symbol, and it was a penny stock, and the thing
Yep.
just literally went up like some crazy number, and then all of a sudden became like a big short squeeze, which is obviously, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's just like short squeeze has been like getting worse and worse and worse every day. Good for us, Like, did you guys have fun with GameStop and stuff just the other
Yeah, we
day?
did. Yeah, we did. So a couple of things about that. So you're right, it has been fun. And when the trading gets active and you're a part of a community like your community or like my community, it can be a lot of fun. And part of the fun is figuring out why these stocks are moving, seemingly random stocks just moving on crazy moves here. I'll say this though, a couple of things about that. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun in the moment, especially when it works. When it doesn't work or when you make a mistake, it becomes not so fun pretty quickly. When you're trading things that are volatile like that, I think it's really, really important that you might focus a little bit more on your risk management techniques so you don't find yourself in that situation that's not as fun. But the other thing you were mentioning earlier, you always learn from different things, whether it's a bad lesson or a good lesson. You always want to take something away from that. And I absolutely practice that in my day to day. And one of the things that I'll say here, when we start to see some of these really kind of junkier stocks just kind of running, Fausto, you've been doing this longer than me, so I defer to your expertise. But one of the things that I've noticed is that when you start seeing a group or a big bunch of this junk kind of running on nothing, a lot of time that signals that something's going to change here in the market. Now, I don't want to say that, on that particular day, that means there's a market top, but that means that something's changing behind the scenes. And I always kind of keep that in the back burner because I want to take note of the things that I realize so I can be as prepared as possible when that trend changes. I'll be honest with you, for a lot of this year, I've been kind of a bear. Right. If people ask me about my thoughts on the market, I really think we're due for a pullback. Now, I'm not in the business of fighting the market because I will lose that fight. If I am fighting the tape, I'm going to trade with the tape. But I still kind of keep that in my mind. And, I'm seeing a lot of this stuff here. It has me thinking maybe this is kind of setting up for a potential pullback across the broader market.
I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've been hearing that all the time.
Mhm.
But I'll just be honest with you. The only reason I see the market ever pulling back if there's a catastrophe. Like people run through tough times unless you got poor money management. They find a way. You know what I mean? You could overtax people. You can, regulate people. They will find a way. Corporate America will find a way. All right. Inflation, right? Oh, inflation's killing everyone. They just raise the prices. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they just make things smaller. They just I've learned one valuable lesson. You are never going to beat Wall Street. Okay. You're never going to beat these corporations, they will always figure a way. The reason why they get paid the big money, the reason why they get hired to work, in government, stuff like that, which they don't want to because they make so much money there. The reason why they have that job, you might not think about it, but in the corporate world, they are all stars. Okay. There are headhunters that will hire these people and will say, and see what they've done with companies, Eli Coca, all these people like in car industries, whatever it is. And, and eventually just bad money management, whatever would happen. We see what happens to these companies, mistakes they make. But I don't know. I mean, like they said that when it was like 30,000, we saw it in COVID. I mean, look what happened in the market. We just broke 40,000. I mean, like, yeah, are we expecting a correction? You got a new presidency coming. People saying like, oh, Trump's going to win. And that's why the market's going up. And whatever it is, they're making up these stories. I don't know. So I just kind of like, I just got my I got my finger on the trigger just in case. And this is where everyone understands, and with the history I've learned, Ryan, is that you just got to, if you day trade, you're going to know if it's going to happen because it's going to happen. And by the time people find out and they get home from work, they're like, what happened last night? And they're like, you didn't know what happened? Oh, maybe we'll come back tomorrow, and then we'll come back tomorrow. And let me tell you, I have a picture of me when COVID hit. I was at my friend's bar, his restaurant, his steakhouse. Took a picture of me with the Dow down 3,000 points. It was down 1,000 and went to 3. I mean, that was just like, So you just got to play. You got to play it out. So try not to get too personal about it, but it'll get there.
Well, so I'm so glad that you brought that up because here I am telling you kind of my own view on what I think the market's going to do here, and I just also finished telling you it doesn't really make sense to fight the tape. So what did I do? If my thesis is that the market should probably roll over here, and traditionally I make my money on the long side, well, I got two choices. I can either adjust my thesis or I can fight the tape. I'm telling you right now, fighting the tape is out, right? That's not what I'm going to do. So what have I been doing? I've been doing more day trading. I've been following day to day what's going on, what stocks are gapping, why are they gapping? Yeah, I've got this viewpoint here that some of these junkier stocks might be kind of signaling a change in the market, but I am going to trade what's in front of me. My own view and my own bias is one thing, but I'm actually going to trade what I'm being presented. And one of the things that this environment has presented us is a lot of stocks that make really kind of quick moves out of the game. I mean, just take a look at Barnes and Noble today. I know you were talking about it potentially moving higher, but that stock, let me bring that up here. I mean, that stock moved from that, it was a 60-cent stock yesterday, and today it printed a high of 135. There was a trade in there, whether you like the company or not. And it's these types of things that even though I have my own views on where the broader market is, I'm constantly looking at what is being presented in front of me, and I'm acting on that as best I can. So despite me thinking that the market's going to go down, I was 1-for-1 on my day trade here today. And we traded that to the upside, and we were able to make some money on Bloom Energy, ticker BE, here this morning. So
yeah, I was 2 for 5 today, and it was down like $23.
Okay.
I was down a lot, and I made a comeback on that stock, Endax, that had a good pop.
Nice
But
clawback.
yeah, that stock was actually, it's been, like I said, it's been a great day trade, it's been a good swing trade. But if there's any historical, I mean, I know now you've been around for you've been doing for several years and stuff. People always ask, and they always ask me if there's any trade, a historical figure, who would you want to, who would that be, and what would you trade with, and what industry would that be in trading?
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a historical trading figure because I got a great answer for that.
No, a historical trading figure.
A historical trading figure. I would want to be Jesse Livermore. I
Jesse
would
Livermore.
absolutely, and you know why? Because the amount of lessons that man must have learned being in some of those times, being one of the only people to short the market prior to a huge fall off, and then see a lot of the stuff come back. I mean, he has made and lost his fortune several times over. So if I was given the opportunity to be somebody else, the amount of knowledge and the amount of things and lessons that guy saw over his career, that's what I want. The easy answer here is Warren Buffett, greatest investor of all time. Okay, that's fine. But I actually want to know some of the pain. Yeah, I want to know some of the pain points, right? I want to know what was hard, what those nights that you couldn't get to sleep. What are you thinking about? What are you taking away from that? How do you make sure that stuff doesn't happen again? What are some of the indicators that you looked for that told you what was going to happen? That I think would be my answer. Jesse Livermore.
Yeah, I met him. I went to the Formula One Grand Prix in Vegas, and it was in the hotel. I was staying at the Encore, and they had a was it that Christie's? It was one of the big auction houses,
Sotheby's.
Sotheby's, and Michael Milken was there, you know, and he went to jail, for he went to jail for I think it was junk bombs or something like that back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And smartest guy I ever met, though. He was just a genius. I mean, like what he did, and he's a billionaire. You know what I mean? Even though what he got caught up in that whole thing, but he learned. It doesn't make him a bad person. He just made a bad trade. He learned from it, and and he's where he is today. I mean, he's building like one of the biggest hospitals in Washington D.C. About. He's telling me, he was talking my ear off, actually. He was telling me, and it actually was on the news. He was talking about building this hospital that they could test your DNA right now, Ryan, and going to know exactly what kind of cancer you're going to have, when you're going to have it, and how bad it will be if you don't take care of it right now. I mean, they just do all this stuff with this, with these, all these tests that they're doing. So, that's how, when you have people that do that well, they know what to do with their money. They want to give it back, and that's what they do. But it was also a really good trader. And I was trying to tell him I was like a day trader. He was like, actually, I said that to I saw Kramer, and I asked him that. I'm like, Kramer, I'm a day trader. He's like, man, you still around? You guys are still doing this? I'm like, oh, thanks. Who do you think you're talking to every day on your show? You know what I mean? But you always learn. It's always nice to know when you have people like that, you talk to them or whatever it is to kind of get their feel. And believe me, they're just like you and I. They once they know you're in the industry, they love talking. And that's where it goes.
You bring up a really good point there. I've met traders from all different backgrounds. I mean, all different experience levels. Former private equity guys. I mean, I know you were a market maker for long. I've met traders from all different backgrounds. And the one thing that is, they're all just regular people. They're all just regular. They're trying to do the exact same thing you and I are trying to do. And it makes me happy because I firmly believe that everybody can do this. This is one of those careers, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you put in work, you can take something from this. If you expect to just be able to just buy something, wake up the next day and go to the Lambo dealership, you're going to be disappointed with this career. But if you put the work in, it can be an extremely, extremely rewarding endeavor.
Yeah, you just listen. You know what? It's like a job, like anything else. And I think that a lot of people put too much effort into it, into like spending hours and hours and analyze it. Listen, you got to find a mentor. You got to find the right person.
Yeah.
I might not be the right person. You might not, but you know what?
Mm-hmm.
You're listening in. Find the right person. Find the right industry you like. I mean, listen. I could tell you 1,000 different reasons why I think the way I trade is better than somebody else, but it just might not be a style. Some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate. You know what I mean? Like you can't convince a chocolate loving fan then to go to vanilla, but he likes ice cream. He likes ice cream. So
and then there's people like me who like them both. Right. It's just no problem.
It's no problem. It's no problem. And you know what? And maybe you'll find someone that knows how to make it really good. The favoring that for one time, period to the other. But you definitely got to go out there and learn from somebody.
Yeah,
the biggest mistake, like what bothers me, Ryan, like I do presentations and, I know we have a lot of people going to be listening to this podcast and everything and so on. But like what bothers me is like trading what I paid as a 22-year-old back in the day. I had to pay thousands of dollars a month, not only working for free, not only splitting the profits with somebody, but getting charged desk fee, this and that, everything that would tell you not to do the job. Right. And today you can get Benzinga, for like a fraction what it used to pay. You can get a seat on the exchange, will cost millions of dollars for $15. You could do trades for free. I had to pay $25 a trade to get in and out of it. And I still made money. And people are just ignorant and just like, you know what? Let me try it and see how it works out. And I just get, and that's why I get really scared with people listening is that, listen, do it right. Don't do it at all. Yeah. You end up blowing up because that's where you get yourself in trouble. And that's why we like, that's why I like having you on and talking to you about this, because when we're trading, we see certain things. It's nice to see that your guys in the same stocks that I'm in, getting a different perspective. And you know what? It makes you feel confident because think how much a better trader you are. Like, holy shit, Fausto's in that trade too.
Yep.
He's like, we're
Yep.
in the same stock. And wait, did you see? What did you see? And I'm like, and he's right. Like, it is going up. I'm like, I'm going to stick with it. That's how you make yourself good traders. You surround yourself with good traders,
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right about that validation too. I mean, that part of the reason why I talk to people in my network all the time, I want to know what they're doing, right? Am I looking at the right thing? Did I miss something? Am I too tunnel vision, two heads down, focused on one piece of news that happened here today, or one sector that's running, or whatever the case is? I'm always taking in as much information as I can. More information, more better trades. It's a really simple equation. So
I
with you
have
there.
I have a question, and then I want you to go to Benzinga,
Sure.
just show a little bit about it, and we'll tell everyone how they can actually tell a little bit about the Benzinga product and how we can all get it and stuff like that. Because I know everybody's looking forward to it. But out of all the people you had on and talked to them, anyone ever confuse you, like saying like, how can anyone listen to this guy? Like everyone, like ever see a mentor or somebody talking to you that's just like what the hell was that?
Yeah, I have. I'm thankful that the mentors that I've been confused by were very open to me looking for some clarification. But yeah, I've absolutely been. I've listened to someone give a whole spiel and been like, man, so are they bullish or bearish? I'm not even really sure at the moment. Like I don't even know what the result of that just was. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, some people just like it just in a different league. It's like going to like a party. Like I was invited to some white party, and like these people are weird looking, and like and they were like what are they talking about? Like they're just like totally different. Like you just came into the Alice in Wonderland. You just went to a totally different area. Yeah, and some people might like that, and might understand that. But that's why I always tell everyone you should learn a little bit from everyone, and then that's how you become a good trader. But
Yeah.
getting back to the Benzinga platform, tell us a little bit about it. Tell
Okay.
us why we need it. Tell us why people use it, and why I use it.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen? Do you want me
Yeah,
to
go
go ahead
ahead.
and do that?
Show them a little bit about
Okay.
it.
All right. Let me go ahead and get this shared here. So, what is the Benzinga? Let's start with the easy question first here. What is the Benzinga Pro platform? Benzinga Pro is a financial news media wire at heart. So, its predominant role is to bring you news as quickly as possible. And that's what it started out as. News is the bread and butter of what we do here at Benzinga. But this platform has morphed into more than just that, right? It's designed to give you other tools in addition to just a standard news feed that you might be familiar with. It gives you other tools like calendars, and this is not your grandmother's calendar that just tells you what day it is. This has all types of stuff from unusual options to FDA news, economic news, earnings news, analyst ratings, the whole nine yards. Um, and it also has a whole bunch of scanners and a whole bunch of community portals too. So there are a bunch of different chat rooms in here. They allow you to really kind of check yourself. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm seeing. What do you folks think? Maybe there's something that I'm missing here. So it's really kind of a one-stop shop to give you any information or to help you with any task that you might need to do throughout the course of a day. So, Fausto, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to kind of just walk through my general preparation for the morning here. You've mentioned a number of times here that we're often looking at some of the same stocks. So, I think what might be beneficial here is if I walk you through how I kind of prepare for a day every day, and that should show us how I land on some of the stocks that I land on. Then maybe we can compare that to your process and see how we're landing on some of the same stocks. So, okay, what you're looking at right here, I call this my main workspace. And what the point of this workspace is to find day trading ideas, right? This is designed to do the work for me so that all I have to do is take a look at some of these different tickers, maybe take a look at the chart, maybe review the news if I want to, and be able to make a trade off of that. All right, so we're actually going to come back here and I will talk to you. I'd be happy to give out my settings if you want as well. So you can literally just duplicate what I have here if that's what you want. But I really want to focus on the process first before we get into some of the specifics, the specific settings here in Pro. So this is what I leave open when the trading day starts. But my day starts long before the opening bell. My day starts with preparation while we're still in the pre-market, and the pre-market has information that I want to take advantage of. So let me show you how I do that. First of all, I've created several workspaces here, and these all achieve different tasks. So the first thing that I want to do when I sit down at my terminal in the morning is I want to say, okay, what's going on? What is the big news that's maybe driving the market? What happened after hours yesterday when I stepped away from my terminal? And what happened maybe overnight or this morning before I actually sat down when I was preparing for the day? So those three things are something that I need to have done for me because my time is limited in the morning prior to the opening bell. Well, Benzinga Pro fits that bill. I'm able to use the news feed here, and I'm able to create 3 instances of the same tool, but then manipulate that tool so that the information is different. And this is really what sets Benzinga apart from any traditional newsfeed that you might be used to. For example, I use Thinkorswim from from Charles Schwab. I can't even believe I just did that. That just happened, so I apologize for that. I use Thinkorswim. They have a news feed in it. Right. And actually, Benzinga as a company, we license news to them, but it doesn't give me the control that I need. It doesn't allow me to pick and choose and remove some of the stuff that's not necessary and focus on just the stuff that is necessary. That's the big difference between Pro and a free news feed that you might find on the web or in one of your brokers, for example. So what I've done here is I've filtered these 3 news feeds a little bit differently. The big one here on the right-hand side of the screen, I'm basically just telling this, hey, only show me big news. All right. And this is really easy to do. If you filter a news feed for the ticker SPY, so if you basically put your cursor in the feed up at the top here and you type in SPY, I'm actually just going to erase it and do it. All right. So if we do this, if we go ahead and type in SPY, what this does now is this only shows me news that is relevant to the SPY. Well, our team of news deskers are actual human beings that do nothing but just go through news. What they're doing is they're going through all of the news, whether it be important or unimportant, and then they're tagging that news. So when they see something that is liable to affect the entire market, they will tag that under ticker SPY. So a really good example was from yesterday. We had all of these comments right after the open from Fed Waller, actually right around the open here from Fed Waller, including this was probably the comment that stands out the most. Fed Waller says, quote, "I just don't see rate hikes happening," end quote. This was important information to know when this took place. And so I set up a news feed to aggregate all of that for me. Once I've set this up, all I have to do is interact with this. I don't have to manipulate settings and change things. I literally know where it is. I said, I got to go find that information, go find it as soon as possible, and move on to the next task. So big information like prints, CPI, PPI prints, comments from the Fed, comments from the White House, any of those things that can, generally speaking, have a bigger effect on the broader market, I aggregate them in this news feed. The news feed here that is all red, this does something else. This actually aggregates exclusive news that we do. So Benzinga is a financial news media company. Occasionally we land interviews with CEOs and we release that information as an exclusive. Well, just kind of thinking about the actual traders and all of that and how trading works, guess what? That's valuable information for me. If it's our community that is getting news first, guess what? We're going to be able to react to that before everyone else. I want to know about that type of stuff. So what I do here is I use the exact same tool. I use the newsfeed tool, but instead of filtering it for a ticker like SPY, I actually filter it for these categories: exclusive, hot, and market moving exclusive. But what I have effectively done here is I've said, all right, platform, only show me news that matches this criteria. Okay, so that right here gives me a list of things that are going to be as an exclusive. Now, last here, to kind of complete this workspace and complete this initial task, I want to know what's going on. So what I've done is I've again relied on the news feed here, but instead, Benzinga has a category for news here called WIM. And I want you folks to remember this. Even if you're not Benzinga subscribers yet, I want you to remember this because chances are you're going to see this floating around in the wild, if you will. WIM, W-I-I-M, stands for why is it moving? That same team of news deskers that are just poring over news constantly every day, that's what they're doing. They're figuring out why stocks are moving. And if they figure out why a stock is moving, they print what's called a whim, a reason why that is moving. Now, couple of things here. Number one, the astute observer will realize that you really can't use this as an alert, right? Because if there's going to be a reason why the stock is moving, then the stock has already started to move just by definition there. So you can't necessarily use this as an alert, but you can use this to kind of get an idea of what's going on. So if there's a stock that's moving and I'm thinking, why TJX here, this is a really great example. TJX, why is this to TJX up 6%? There's a retail name here. Okay, well, they reported better than expected Q1 financial results. I've actually traded TJX in the past, and I know that when they report good earnings, that stock often performs quite well. I've had a number of successful trades where I've actually bought calls at the open only to see it gap and go a little bit more. So now just by simply glancing at this, I know exactly why TJX is moving. But furthermore, when I sit down at my terminal, I can actually scroll back and I say, okay, what did I miss here this morning? Target's trading lower on Q1 EPS. Okay, that means I also want to pay attention to what's happening with Walmart, right? Maybe there's something going on in retail that I'm unaware of right now. Target down, EPS miss. Okay, GTHX is a company I've never heard of. G1 Therapeutic shares trading higher after the company and Demios Biosciences announced a licensing agreement. Okay, well, a company I've never heard of trading higher. Now I can figure out in less than a couple of seconds why that's happening. That might mean there might be another peer for me to trade. That might mean whatever this catalyst is, whether it's earnings or some type of piece of news or something of that nature, there might be another trade here. And I'm able to kind of just prepare for that. So I roll through this entire workspace as kind of a preparation. I got my trusty cup of coffee next to me. I'm kind of getting an idea of what's going on. I think, okay, I know pretty much what's going on now. Now it's time to look for individual names. And so what do I do next? I actually move over to a tool that I consider this to be the best gap tool anywhere out there. Fausto, I hope I'm not stepping on any toes in terms of tools
Not
that
at
you
all.
have and use in CTU. But in my opinion, the movers tool in Benzinga PRO is the best tool for determining gaps. It is so extremely easy and fast to use. You're able to get that information really, really quickly. So what do I have here? This workspace, very, very simple. One tool and a details tool. The details tool is set to the chart so I can see it. And I have an intraday chart here so I can see the pre-market and the after-hour activities. Pre-market shaded in gold, after-hours shaded in blue. In the actual tool here itself, I just have a couple of options selected. Gainers, pre-market, and session. Well, what does this mean? We're looking for stocks that are trading up in the pre-market session, and our boundary is just that session, right? So we're basically just looking at this pre-market. All right, then I have some other filters, and there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to these filters. That much I want to stress. This is all what you like. For example, I don't like trading penny stocks, so I put a minimum price filter of $1 on here. I don't like trading or being fooled by stocks that are extremely illiquid. So I put a volume filter on here. If it's trading over 600,000 shares before the market even opens, chances are I'm going to be able to day trade that stock. So this is doing some of the work for me. Then it produces a list of results here. And you know what this list is? This is a list of the stocks that are about to gap today, because these are all stocks that are trading up in the pre-market. Here you go. SYTA, Sciata Mobile. This traded up here in the pre-market. BuzzFeed, I almost can't even believe it, but BuzzFeed traded up in the pre-market today because of a stake taken by former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. And so I can very quickly go through the different stocks that are going to gap here. A lot of the times I'll look on a chart, I'll see, hey, is there any key level that I should be aware of? BuzzFeed here, this was one that we were definitely watching. We watched it really kind of break the high and then immediately reverse, give up the VWAP, sayonara. That was it here for the day on BuzzFeed. So I do this every day, and it doesn't matter if the market's down 200 points in the pre-market or up 200 points in the pre-market. This tool is going to allow me to find what's moving. If you're not a long guy, if you're someone that's looking for a short, or conversely, if you're someone that's looking to buy stuff that's been absolutely destroyed in the hopes that it bounce, One click of the mouse changes this over to things that are gapping down. Here's edible. This was actually a monster mover for us recently on the show. Edible Garden. If you take a look at a 15-minute chart here, look at all of these days where this thing just popped and dropped. And so this is actually a really good example. Being able to do this, I'm able to see, hey, how does this stock like to trade? Because if it has a history, it's likely going to kind of stick around with that history. So I'll go through this list. I'll come up with a short list of stocks that I want to watch right out of the open. Remember, I told you to remember about whims earlier. Check this out. If a stock has a whim, I don't even have to go hunting for it. It's automatically printed right here at the top. Edible Garden shares trading lower after the company announced the pricing of a $6 million public offering. Okay, no shock there, right? Stock's getting pounded here, down 50% today. So I can very easily kind of go through what's going on, and I can create a list of stocks that I want to look at right around the opening print. Then we actually get to that 9:30 open. I flip over to my main workspace. Now I have the program itself, right? Benzinga PRO itself is using my scanner, which we're going to go ahead and talk about here. Fausto, this is really where I want to get your opinion too. I can't wait to hear what you say about this. Once the market's open, I flip over to my scanner. Now this workspace does the work for me. As a trader, my job is to manage my risk, manage my capital. My job is to make sure that my thesis is holding up. And then my job is inevitably to execute these trades. I want to focus as much as I can on what I can control and let the software do everything else, right? So whether it's me looking on Twitter for what are people playing, or me looking around, what are the other traders trading here today? Instead, what I do is I go ahead and find it. And then when I talk to some of these other cohorts, that, as we talked about earlier, validates some of the things that I'm looking at. Okay, so real quickly here, when it comes to the main workspace, the entire crux of what I'm doing here is looking for higher than average volume. Okay, that's it. And Benzinga PRO makes this extremely easy. We take a look at the filters here in this little blue shaded area. In fact, I'll zoom in here. I know that this is probably very difficult for folks to see out in internet land. I apologize. I promise you it's much easier in person. When you're looking at these filters here, this subtype, this is basically looking for ETFs, equity, and ADRs, right? ADRs would be dual listed stocks like Alibaba or something like that. This is just a general filter. I didn't apply that. And the filter I did apply here, that same 600K volume threshold. If we're day trading, folks, I got to be able to get in and out of the stock. I'm not going to buy some low volume piece of junk. That's how I get hurt. You talk about mistakes that we've learned earlier. That was one of them. The next thing that I have here is I have change percent 1M. Now you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, what this is a measure of how much the stock is changing on a percentage basis in the past 1 minute. So in this filter, I have 0.2% there. Why do I have that? Because I want to know if the stock starts moving up. If the stock is down on the day, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's completely out of play. If it trades off out of the open and then starts to maybe curl back up and we start to get some volume pour into that name and expand, that's a trade that I might want to take. It doesn't matter that it's down on the day. It matters what it's doing right now. So the filter that I use here, change percent 1 minute, I'm looking for 0.2% there. That's the long bias trader in me looking for things that are moving to the upside. Now, perhaps the most important part of this entire scan, the crux of this entire scan, is this relative volume filter. And the name of this filter is RVOL 5M30D. Now, I'm sure you and a bunch of your students have heard of relative volume. You've probably used relative volume in some case, in some form or another. You might be familiar with FinViz. I know a lot of traders that use FinViz still to this day to do scans in the evening of what stocks traded on high relative volume today. And a lot of those stocks might have some type of momentum continuation the next day. So this is all part of the preparation process. But this filter works differently. This filter looks intraday and it compares only apples to apples. So if I mouse over the little question mark here, Benzinga PRO's help tool will actually tell you what this does. Relative volume compares the past 5 minutes of volume to the 30-day average for the same time period and presents that as a ratio. For example, an R vol of 2 at 10:05 a.m. means the stock did 2 times the average volume it normally does between 10 and 10:05 a.m. And Fausto, to me, this is paramount for what I'm trying to do. If I right now it's what 12:11 Eastern time, right? So we're at the lunch hour. We take a look at almost any stock here. My volume bars are overlaid on the bottom of the chart here. Give me a ticker, pick a ticker, throw tickers in the chat. I'll check them all. It's almost always going to be the case that the volume around the lunch hour looks different than the volume around the opening print. We've got Bloom Energy in here. Let's pick a bigger stock that everyone's familiar with Apple. Okay. Maybe this isn't the greatest example because that initial print was so big that it's actually relatively sizing these things a little bit differently. How about Nvidia, right? Nvidia's got earnings. It's on everybody's radar. Look at the volume that was traded around the open on Nvidia and look where we're at right now. It would do me no good to compare the volume right now to what it was doing earlier in the day. But the filter in Benzinga Pro keeps that in mind, and it will always look for the same time frame that you're in. It doesn't matter if you look at this filter at 9:30 in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3 p.m. right before the close. It's always going to be comparing apples to apples. And this helps me determine if something is actually unusual here. So a lot of the times the value that I have here set is 3. In English, that means that, hey, scanner, only return results where the stock is trading 300% what it normally does during that time frame. And the look back period here is a 30-day period, a 1-month period. So this is, I do no work. I basically just look at this list. I notice when things are changing. I can add different data in here, and then I see if anything meets that. Guess what? The one stock that I traded today using this strategy here was Bloom Energy. I think I sold it a little too early. I probably should have stayed in this as this continues to run to the highs, printing 18 now, up about 20%. Okay, let's take a look at some of the examples that you folks gave me. You gave me the SPY. I absolutely love that, Ray. Love that, Ray. SPY, this actually a pretty good example. This pretty even across the day, but that big opening print candle there, that is going to skew some of this. Carlos wants to take a look at Hive. Let's do it. Hive Digital Technologies. This is another, let's take a look at some of the stats on this one. I'm curious. Hive, on average, stock trades 2.5 million shares. Today, it's traded 1.5 million shares. We're halfway through the day. If I take a look at the actual chart here, let me fast forward. I apologize for that. If I take a look at the chart here today, nothing really looks abnormal here, right? Volume all kind of looks the same. The stock's actually looks like it's done pretty well today, up almost 6% here. Done a really good job trading above its VWAP. I don't see a whole lot of difference here. And guess what? Because of that, I don't see this on the list. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual or out of the ordinary here with Hive, despite the stock being up 6%. So I hope that's helpful for you. Fausto, I'd love to know what you hear or what you think about volume and how you kind of factor that into your trade plan. To me, I've gone back and forth. I've looked at a ton of different things, moving averages, all of these different indicators, volume profile, et cetera, et cetera. To me, volume tells the story. When volume's pouring in, a lot of the times there's a trade to be made there.
No, it's exactly where you find the stocks. It's exactly where we're doing to find the same way. I mean, like what's nice about certain platforms is, and what's nice about yours, but you can't do on other platforms like some of the like Thinkorswims and stuff like that. You can't filter and say, you know, show me X amount of shares, an average share. Because some of like mine, I'm seeing stocks that might trade like, I don't know, 400 shares. You know what I mean? So that's something you kind of want to filter out, which is nice about it. And also, you know, your day chart, like it's kind of showing you a little bit what the trend is. So it's kind of spitting those out for you. Filtering that stuff out does help bring up the list, you know, because there's 25,000 stocks out there, you know, like, how do you know which one to trade? Well, obviously volatility has a lot to do with it. Volume has to do with it. And that's, you just got to be able to just, you know, show me the parameters. Don't show me anything under $1. You know what I mean? Don't show me anything over 200. You know what I mean? And it kind of just helps bring other things up. But exactly the same way you're doing it. That's what's nice about the Benzinga, which and I know we're almost out of time, and I want to kind of tell everyone a promotion that Benzinga did offer everyone. Let me kind of share take the screen back from you and just share it really quick. for everyone to share with what we got going on. That we can talk a
Fausto,
little bit.
if I may just make one closing comment about this before you do that.
Sure.
I know what I'm showing you here is what I do, but keep in mind that one of the things about Benzinga is that as you were just explaining, it puts that filtering ability in your hands. So there's not necessarily a right or wrong way. You might not use relative volume. There might be some other parameters that you use, like price to earnings or short interest or whatever the case is.
Short interests.
And you can absolutely put that stuff here. You could create multiple scans out of this. In fact, if you go into my save menu, I actually have a scan saved here for high short interest. I'm basically looking for short percent float greater than 20 and days to cover over 5. And that's going to help me find those lists. So there's no right or wrong answer here. What Benzinga does, the big value is it puts that power in your hands, so you don't have to rely on what somebody else has done.
I also like, just so everybody else know, on the bottom that he has under the chart where it kind of shows like session highs, price spikes that you're getting, low of the session today. I like that too, because it kind of gives me a sense of knowing if we're breaking lower lows on a stock. So like, it's almost like a ticker. It's a ticker. I was a tape reader, so that's basically another really cool tool that a lot of brokerage firms don't offer. Which is, it's another way, because sometimes
what's
might not
hilarious about that? I'm so glad that you said that, because this to me, what Fausto was talking. Let me actually make this a little bit bigger. What Fausto is talking about, I believe, is this signals tool
that right there
down here in the bottom. Okay, let me tell you a little. I know we're running out of time. I'll be very, very quick. Let me tell you a quick story about this. Again, I've told you that my entire thing is spending time around traders that are more experienced than me. And I talked to a guy who'd worked in private equity for 40 years. He's been day trading himself for 30 of those. He was telling me, he's like, Ryan, he's like, Goldman Sachs created this product in the 80s that was awesome. It basically counted any time a new stock made a high. And I have been using that product since 1980, and nobody else has it. If you guys were able to develop something like that, I think that would be a really sweet tool. And I said, well, how do you use that? He said, well, think about it. If a stock continually is pounding its high, what does that stock have? And I said, it's got the juice. It's got the momentum. And he said, that's right. And what does it happen if it's continually pounding the lows? I thought about it for a second. I said, oh, well, shoot, it's got that momentum to the downside. And he goes, that's exactly right. The stocks that are pounding highs and continuously setting new highs time after time after time, that's where the momentum is. And it seems simple, right? You're just counting the number of highs, but this is what professionals have been using for a long time. We actually already had a signal in here that would report anytime a stock made a new high. So I went back to the development team. I said, hey, look, I've been talking to this trader, been doing this for a long time. He says, can we just count it and print it there so we can give people a running tally? And they looked at me like, yeah, of course we can do that. And so we did that. And now it's part of our workspace. It's part of a number of different workspaces. Now you've commented it on a live presentation there. Excuse me. Look at this, by the way, NXT, as we're talking here about this, and that actually went right by CLSK coin. What's Bitcoin doing? I just identified that these Bitcoin names are at the highest simply by glancing at this. Thanks to you mentioning it.
Well, what I kind of do too, also, Ryan, with it is that, and it's funny you bring it up about Goldman Sachs, whatever. When I started, there was a company. I don't know if people know about it, but basically, this is how cyber trading, and I had a dispute a long time ago. There was a company called Cyber Trader, okay, and it was actually Cyber Corp. And then Charles Schwab bought it out, and it became Cyber Trader. And there was a conflict with names because everybody thought I was associated with them, but I owned the name first, so I couldn't really do anything about it. But that's another story. We'll talk about that another time. But what happened is they wanted to get into the direct access business. If anybody has Schwab, it's their Edge platform. So that was the platform that I helped develop back in the 90s. So they had a tool like this, a big percentage gainers and losers. And I keep telling everyone it was one of the greatest tools, because even when you look at the big percentage gainers and losers list, this is another list, because all of a sudden a stock might just show up, even be at a 3% move, and meanwhile it's making new highs, but didn't make the big percentage gainers or losers where we find stocks of 30, 40, 50%. So I always tell everyone to do that. I understand why, why don't you guys do it? They're like, and you know why they want to do it? Because, the data, we got to set, it uses up a lot of bandwidth and that's and that. And that's the difference between why you're dealing with, a company like Benzinga and having the right tools, why we do it, than not. But yeah, no, it's a great tool. I love using it. And it kind of just gives you ideas and alerts. And so it's tape reading. I'm actually going to do a class on that. I got to do a short video on it, how I find
Can
one
I get
on
an
there.
invite to that? I'd actually like to sit in on that if you do that.
Yeah, no, I do because I use it all the time, and like I said, we're in a big percentage gainers. We won't find anything, but let me tell everyone how to actually get the platform. If anybody here wants to get the demo of the platform, Benzinga ran a really cool promo for everybody. So basically, you get a 14-week trial of the platform. It doesn't cost you
14-day.
anything, no credit card, no nothing. It's the first time they ever did this. Everybody just get the 2-week trial. Just try the 2-week trial. There's no catch. There's no money it's involved. There's no credit cards. There's nothing.
So,
Get the 14.
let me speak to that real quick because we get this from people all the time. Fausto's exactly right. When we say this is a 14-day risk-free trial, we mean that. Okay. Let me give you some hypotheticals. First of all, as Fausto mentioned, no credit card required. A. Number two, or B, excuse me, it is full featured. In fact, the trial has some of the add-on features like the unusual option activity filter that we built after we released the platform. We actually had to buy new data, so we had to charge for that. That's included in your trial. We want you to try it. We want you to know if it works for you before you end up paying us. And perhaps most importantly, and I get this question all the time, if you sign up for this trial today and you forget tomorrow, or something terrible happens to you and you can't get back to your computer tomorrow, this trial will simply expire. This does not turn into a subscription. It does not turn into a bill. It does not turn into an invoice. You make that decision. If it helps you, great. We're here to help. If not, no hard feelings.
And if you guys want to see me use it in our trading room, all you got to do is click on this link. Another thing, no credit card, no nothing. I'm actually doing an event on it tomorrow. Just here's the link for that. I'm doing a free workshop. If you want to know how we kind of use some of these tools here, as in trading and everything else, feel free to come visit Cyber Trade University. So with that said, Ryan, listen, thanks for having me. I know we went over our time a little bit more, but it was just great having you on. I love being on your show. Love having you being here. Look forward to having you back here on the next podcast, and and just talking about some fun stuff like this. Tools, the great tools about it. With trading, how'd you do on your trading? And, if anything, Benzinga comes out with anything new on it. But thanks for being here. And everyone, thanks for watching. We will have this recorded and we'll put it on our YouTube channel. So just make sure you subscribe to our channel, like us, friend us, ring that bell, get those alerts. We'll have some shorts done with it. We'll have some highlights of this podcast, and we'll have the long version for all of you to enjoy. So don't forget to do that. Get that trial. And like I said, come and join us, and we'll show you how to use it, because there's not too many tools we use at Cyber Trade University. It's only 2 of them that we use, and this is one of them. Thanks, Ryan, and I look forward to being on it, talking to you next week.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on, and we'll see you next time.